Hello, my name is John Bayliss. I'm the author of the book Advanced Osteopathic Technique. Today I'm going to talk to you about thoracic articulation and how the joint locks. There is much written and demonstrated on this subject, but all miss out two vital ingredients: the job of the nucleus pulposus and the forces that create movement, the G&M forces. In my book I explain and illustrate in great detail synergetic spinal mechanics, together with the bony mechanics behind an osteopathic lesion. I also show how to apply PPT manipulation, which is an advanced form of manipulation, hence the name of the book. A little background information. I originated and started my development of my synergetic spinal articulation theories, along with PPT manipulation, back in 2005. I worked out my theories, taking account of published research, but more importantly with my 3D bilateral synergetic experimentation, based on solid physics. I took apart a spine and was able to work out through thousands of hours of experimentation how the spinal joints truly articulate. They had to work singularly and in harmony with all the other joints in the spine and pelvis, and all combine to work together to create human movement. In this video we're going to look at how T67 articulates, rotates and side bends. For this demonstration I have to an extent exaggerated the movements for clarity. Gregson and Lucas's eminent research, referenced in Kabanji Volume 3, provides a constant. Their research is based on using accurate imaging techniques. They concluded at T67 on the spines that they researched, around 19 degrees of rotation took place. So let's look at how this joint produces this level of rotation. Note that on some spines, T67 thoracic facets can have less or more rotation. Bear in mind also that there are other thoracic vertebrae above and below that have flat facets. The way the T67 joint rotates, therefore, has to allow for differing levels of rotation and non-rotation. To work out how joints articulate, a plastic spine like this yields misleading, ambiguous results that do not conform in any way to human articulation. These spines are useful for decoration only. To apply the basic principles of physics, the rotation side bending of spinal joints would need a center point of origin to anchor, guide and stabilize the facet trajectory. This is one of the little known but main functions of the nucleus pulposus. Therefore, in studying the articulation, we need to substitute nucleus pulposus as our point of radial origin. Here I've used a flat tablet and attached it with some blue tack. The nucleus pulposus and the discs between the thoracic vertebral joints have a much larger surface area than those in the lumbar discs. This is because they are designed for completely different actions. When I put the facets of T67 together, you can see that their design is compatible with very limited flexion and extension. The ribs attach to the sides of the joint here. If I exaggerate T6 flexion, the rib facets and ligaments would be pulled apart, and this would put tension on the ligaments of the attaching ribs. However, if T6 were to be extended, T6 and the rib attachments would block approximation. But if forced, the ribs would act as a lever and tip the facets of the spinous process, causing bone against bone here. If we draw in the circumference passing over the facets of T7 at the distance of our center point of origin, you can see the circumference of T6 rotation would form a small tight circle that does not match the angle of the T7 facets. A circumference that fits the T7 facets would need to have a radial point of origin somewhere around here, which is physiologically unfeasible, but an interesting point to note for visceral and cranial therapists. Using our T7 nucleus pulposus as our point of origin, look at what happens when I use it to rotate T6. The T6 facet comes away from the T7 facet, and you get bone against bone, beached here, and the joint locks. So how does T6 rotate on T7? Well, it does it the way the synergetic model predicts. The nucleus pulposus of the thoracic vertebrae are designed to accommodate the side shift created by the G and M forces that take place above and below. The G and M forces are too complicated to include in this simple explanation. Side shifting the T6 facets in neutral and mild flexion causes them to slide over the T7 facets and keep in contact to create a smooth rotation. This works on flat thoracic facets as well. The benefits don't stop there though. You also get the added bonus of vertebral stepping, which creates a pseudo side bending. In essence, you have rotation and side bending taking place at the exact same time. If I exaggerate the side shift, you can see the stepping effect better. Side shift, as opposed to side bending, has the added advantage of keeping the ribs parallel and therefore functional at the same time. If rotation and or side bending are forced on the joint in thoracic extension, you would get bone pressing against bone just here. The spinous process of T6 would be beached and caught between the transverse process and the spinous process of T7. Nasty. With the spinous process of T7 in the way, T6 is blocked and cannot return to neutral. In thoracic flexion, if side bending and or rotation are forced on the joint, you get bone against bone just here. And the joint locks, but not to the same extent as it would in extension. It's Daniel on the couch here, and I've asked him to side shift his pelvis over to the left. We're looking at T7-6. Here's the flexion of his leg. Now, if I put my hand on the spinous process, I can push it upwards. So it means it's doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that up further and then push that over like that. So here we go. And it's as simple as that. You just push it over, lift it up, and then just side shift the whole thing over, and that's it. That's the subluxation, bony subluxation joint. And if we bring Daniel back into the midline, now the lesion is removed and it's gone now. There is no click because you are relaxing the ligaments and not wrenching them apart. The process is fast and long-lasting, and the patient hardly feels anything, so there is very little pre-manipulative patient anxiety. A lot of manual therapists come a cropper when they first try to carry out these techniques. This is because they move their hand with the same heavy-handed jerking action they are used to using when applying classical techniques. However, such brute force causes the ligaments and muscles to instantly contract and block movement. Be firm and gentle like this, and the joint goes back into place with ease. My book illustrates how to use PPTs on every joint. I hope this video has given you food for thought.